Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PMP Sports. Martino Puccio, Matt Lasella, along with you. All right, first topic of the day: Joe Johnson bought out by the Brooklyn Nets, the irrelevant loser Brooklyn Nets. That ends his tenure there. For the five starters from that supposed um, Mikhail Prokhorov championship team are now gone. All that is left is Brook Lopez, and he's been healthy the whole year. How ironic is that? Um, so, well, including Jason Kidd also. Jason Kidd is gone. He was the coach at that time. So, to put it into perspective, how would you sum up Joe Johnson's career in Brooklyn and that whole Brooklyn project? Because it's kind of at the end of an era, or once Brook Lopez leaves, it's really over.
It's a mess. That's the only way I can describe it, is that it's an absolute mess.
And to
it never, it just didn't go anywhere. It never developed. I mean, injuries had a part to do with it. You know, Lopez was hurt the last couple of years, but I don't really know what the potential even was.
I think it speaks volumes to the arrogance of Mikhail Prokhorov and how he thought that he could buy a championship and get a championship right away. I don't think there's ever been a scenario where a team has gotten a bunch of players, star players, and won the championship in the first year. I think the Boston Celtics are the only team to do that. When Danny got Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen on the team, think about it. The Miami Heat didn't win it that first year. LeBron came. In terms of other stars, even the Cleveland Cavs right now, they didn't win last year. They don't look like they're winning this year either. And it's just crazy to think that the Brooklyn Nets gave up all those picks for guys that were past their prime.
Oh, yeah.
Jason Terry, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Paul Pierce was the only one that was even relevant to able to do anything at all at that time. And even then, he wasn't warranted a future first-round pick. Maybe not. Okay, but all those guys, it was pretty much first-round pick for this one. On top of, who would they get? Gerald Wallace back? Take the expiring contract? Billy King is clueless. He was always clueless back when he was in Philly. And even now, when Mikhail Prokhorov chose to keep him to go search for the new GM, in which they hired Sean Marks. And I think Sean Marks is doing the right thing and cut the dead weight. You know, whatever. What good is Joe Johnson going to do if he's playing on the team? Buy him out. Don't pay him as much money as you thought, as you would have had to, because he was the second highest paid player in the league. You let him go. Let him try and go get a ring somewhere. You know, hop on a roster, see if he can go make a run in the postseason. It really speaks volumes onto how Prokhorov really didn't keep that many smart basketball minds around him when he was starting off, and it's crazy to think that he thought he could win a championship, no less the division.
With just knowing the business side.
I don't even think they won the division, right?
No.
Hasn't Toronto won it these past few years? Past 3 years, I'm pretty sure they won the division. So even then, and then again, the players they traded for, they didn't even last that long.
No.
I'm pretty sure Paul Pierce was there for 1 year, gone to Washington. Jason Terry was let go, and Kevin Garnett stayed there for a year and a half until he was traded back to Minnesota last year. So it was really just a whole debacle. And then once Jason Kidd left, it was really just a mess. And they didn't really know what they were doing. They hired Lionel Hollins, who was a solid head coach, but it just wasn't the right project. They gave up all their future, and the worst thing I think Brooklyn can do coming up to this summer is spend money on free agents, because they're just going to be running in the treadmill.
Yeah.
They shouldn't do that.
They're just going to be stuck like this if that's the case.
They would be stuck in the NBA treadmill. And you know what? It doesn't matter. They don't have picks for a few years. You could see what happened crosstown to the Knicks.
Right.
Is it worth it trading all these picks? No, it's not. It's never worth it to trade picks in any sport, except for baseball. You could make the excuse for it because you could handpick
so many
you
players.
could get international guys. You could find a guy like
Yeah,
Piazza or Pujols later in the draft.
It's a much bigger.
It's a much different sport. But when a sport like basketball, you only have 2 rounds, and almost the second round is almost as useless unless if there weren't international prospects.
Right.
Would you really be drafting a guy like that? You never know. I mean, Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, there's always exceptions, but you generally get.
But you need to know how to develop a guy like that. You can't just there's just no formula in Brooklyn, and there's no identity.
There's no foundation. There's really nothing.
And it starts from the top. And Prokhorov really didn't know what he was doing, and it's crazy to see what Brooklyn does now. They should really look to trade some guys. If Thad Young and Brook Lopez can get you some value back.
Yeah, that is having a great year.
And even when Jarrett Jack is back, I mean, it'll put him in good position. I mean, as bad as Philly is, Philly might be in good position after this offseason, depending on how
draft picks.
Look, I mean, hey, look how the draft can go. You never know who someone might overtrade, and you might get some solid players for one of those young big men. You'd rather be in that position than the position the Kings and the Nets are in. So anyways, best fit, there's teams out there looking for Joe Johnson. There's always been the Cavs, have always been that one team. Oklahoma City Thunder have been looking around, snooping around with their noses for him. That one doesn't make much sense to me. The same could be said for Cleveland with all the personalities. Just a former star off the bench, it just doesn't bode well. Taking away minutes from J.R. Smith, ugh, jeez. Can only imagine. Boston, I've seen, has been in the mix for that. That wouldn't be that bad. They have a roster spot to fill ever since they bought out David Lee.
Some nice veteran leadership for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Stays in conference, so he's comfortable.
And division. Goes right to Atlanta is another one, and then the Miami Heat. I saw the Miami Heat were the biggest favorites.
Yeah, I think the Heat makes the most sense, but it also doesn't make the most. You have Winslow, right? You have Deng, you have
you could
Green,
put Johnson at the 2.
What are you taking away from there?
Save some minutes for Dwayne Wade's knees.
But all right. So I guess Green is probably the odd man out.
It's Pat Riley and what Pat Riley sees as a vision. I think they don't even know where Chris Bosh is going to be playing again.
Not just this season. On a side note, that's a shame.
It's a potential disaster in Miami. Who knows if Dwayne Wade might want to leave, go to another team. Cleveland? You never know. Where else is Dwayne Wade going to go? Unless Miami's going to have to overpay to keep Dwayne Wade.
I don't know. Do they necessarily have to overpay, though? Is Wade looking for the check?
Apparently, Pat Riley promised Dwayne that he would get his money when he signed that short-term contract.
Right. Now, if I'm Dwayne and you look at the pieces you have around you, Dragic, solid point guard, right? Can run the floor.
Yeah,
good shooter, decent defender. Average. Yeah. Whiteside blossoming into
trade,
an absolute
sell high.
Okay, so in that case, then Wade has to go. But if you wanted to stick with that roster you have, Winslow, an up and coming star, he's playing 28 minutes a night and he's only averaging 6 and 5, but he's shooting the ball well. He's playing defense. He's not a numbers guy, at least not yet. So this team is a couple of pieces away from being a top 4 seed. I don't see why they wouldn't ride it out.
Want? In the NBA, do you want a top 4 seed or do you want to be a contender? Do you want to be?
Well, I think they could be that already, and I think that's just Wade taking a pay cut or. I think they have pieces already. They just need to add a couple more.
The question you have to ask yourself is, do you see the Miami Heat currently constructed, adding Joe Johnson, even beating the Cleveland Cavaliers? Forget the Spurs, forget the Warriors. Do you even think they could beat the Cavs in a 7-game series? No, they can't. Even the Bulls, maybe.
They beat the Bulls. The Bulls are I don't know how the Bulls are still afloat with the injuries, but a healthy Miami team. Well, how healthy are we going with or without Chris Bosh? Without Chris Bosh, they don't win anything.
You don't even know if he'll play again this season
without Chris Bosh,
for the rest of his career. You don't know.
If you have Chris Bosh, that team with Joe Johnson could beat
I personally
Cleveland.
think Miami is a borderline disaster right now. I don't think they're that good, and I don't think outlook-wise for the future they have anything. They don't have any draft picks. Who's going to want to go sign in Miami with an aging Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh that you don't even know is going to play? I mean, you got Dragic, you got Whiteside. Maybe Whiteside's a clown half the time. He's just talking about his NBA rating, as good as he is off the bench. Okay, and then you got Justice Winslow. I mean, Winslow's very good, very nice prospect to have, but in terms of future wanting to go win somewhere, I'm not sure that's the best place for Joe. I mean, a reunion in Atlanta would be nice. I think if he's
I don't think that team.
I think if he's going to some place, he's got to go to Cleveland.
Well, I think so too, because I mean, I don't think Atlanta. I mean, it makes sense.
Or he wants to be
just,
patient.
It doesn't. It doesn't happen. Atlanta doesn't really know what they're doing either. They won. What I mean, what are they? The 5 seed, 4th, 6th seed?
Atlanta's right in the middle of the pack. They're not doing much. They realize we got good players, but we don't have the players that'll put us over the top.
They're at the 7. They're 4 games over 500.
Yeah.
Chicago's right ahead of them, who they could easily beat out because
Chicago's
injuries,
waiting on Jimmy Butler. Chicago's
and then Indiana's right above that. And so actually, Atlanta's only 2 games out of the 4 spot, and they're in the 7. So the move makes sense. But they also don't know their identity. One minute they want to trade Horford and Teague, and the next minute they don't.
No, I think it was more of we're trading them if we get what we want. Not, hey, we're going to trade them if we get something close to what we want. It's either, no, we get what we want, or
that's it. Trade or bust.
But, I mean, if Al Horford's leaving, they should have just traded him.
Yeah.
For anything they could grab. Why pull a Wilpons move with the Jose Reyes?
Are you going to tell me nobody gave you a good enough offer for that? I mean, maybe no one did.
It could be their own stubbornness for wanting so much for him. They wouldn't budge. They try to play hardball. And I'm pretty sure Budenholzer is the one in charge of their operations. I believe I think he has a big say in what they do down there. And Budenholzer, I think, is a really good coach. But I don't know what the outlook is for Atlanta. They really have to play their cards right coming up. But yeah. So that'll do it. If I see Joe Johnson going anywhere, I think Cleveland and Boston would be the 2 nice places. Depending on like what kind of role he would accept in Boston, I think it'd be a very nice bench player coming off for Boston.
Yeah,
I mean, a nice sub for Avery Bradley. You could put Evan Turner at the 3, or you could even move Joe up. You could move Joe up to the 3 because he used to play the 3, and then you have.
He's probably more comfortable there now at this point in his career.
That's probably one of the best benches in basketball because you bring in Smart, Turner, Joe Johnson.
Yeah,
it's really good scoring. Even then, you could put it to you could go for a 4. But anyways, that'll wrap it up. I think. Well, what's your prediction?
I mean, I'd probably have to say Cleveland. Just because
see Cleveland.
They're in the best. They're in the best spot to. They're gonna win the division. So it's
I think it gives them more of a shot.
It gives them more of a shot. But I see as far as OKC, I wouldn't be surprised if OKC can pull it off. But Durant, Westbrook, Ibaka, Cantor, Waiters, where does Johnson doesn't get any looks? Really, that's first of all. You just made the move for Foy to upgrade the 2. So if you were going to do, I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do it because they do stuff like that. They're looking for as much firepower as they can, and you really can't blame them. You're going up against Golden State and San Antonio. So.
Yeah, but that's the thing too about Golden State. They have a great bench, and one of the things you want to try and do when you play a top team, it's like
have a better bench.
Curry's on the bench. Let's go do some damage while he's sitting out. Their bench comes in, and they're already a better starting 5 than Philly.
Right. You don't lose
Brooklyn.
much.
And that's the thing. So if Cleveland wants to strengthen their bench with a guy who used to start, a former multiple-time All-Star, and you could put him in there and keep J.R. Smith in that starting role and kind of sit him out and let Joe Johnson take over. Joe Johnson can still take over, and he would probably be one of the most talented bench players in the league already, probably behind Jamal Crawford, Iguodala, in that category.
This is why I think with or without Joe Johnson, OKC can put up a huge fight, if not beat Golden State, because when Golden State goes to their bench, and they have a better bench than probably the bottom 6 starting lineups in the NBA, right? OKC and Billy Donovan know how to work that bench where Durant and Westbrook, they don't have to play together. When Curry's out, Westbrook will be. If Curry's in, Westbrook's going to play a lot of minutes in that series, of course, but you have the dual threat of Durant and Westbrook, and they could either one of them can beat you by themselves. Adding Johnson, I mean, You could put him in with Westbrook. You put him in with Durant. You have Waiters and Cantor. They have a lot of weapons, and I think the more and more we talk about it, maybe that is the move that happens. So the front runners are probably Cleveland and OKC, but Cleveland will likely go out and get him, and Toronto's close, but they're not going to catch him, especially not if they grab Johnson.
No, not a chance. All right, that'll do it for this segment of PNP Sports. Coming up, next couple segments today, Jason Kidd and the Bucks. What a weird situation that's happening in Milwaukee. Very strange, and a brighter situation in the NBA with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. We'll let you know what we're talking about in a few. PNP Sports. Be back.